Ethan sat there, perhaps for 5 minutes, perhaps for half an hour. Time seemed to collapse, shrinking into a single point. The blinking cursor on the screen, a malevolent star on his dead father's haunted map. Heart? The question was no longer a mad hypothesis. It was an accusation, a truth rising from the abyss to devour him. His first instinct was a scientist's denial. He double-checked the Kaiomaru's GPS coordinates. He reran Leo's data conversion algorithms. He scoured his father's journal for any note suggesting a miscalculation. But there was nothing. Every number, every calculation was eerily precise. This was no coincidence. A suffocating weight pressed on his chest. He needed air. Stumbling out of the cabin, he bumped into the doorframe. The deck was deserted. Leo had retreated to the engine room, likely still wrestling with his impossible data. Ethan took a deep breath, but the salty sea air no longer felt clean. It carried an ancient heavy tang. He gazed at the horizon. The sky, clear hours ago, was darkening unnaturally in the west. Grey clouds advancing like an army. "A storm's coming," a calm voice said behind him. Ethan spun around. Kana stood there securing equipment tops. She didn't look at him, her eyes fixed on the sky with the knowing of someone who'd lived her life by the sea. "The forecast didn't mention anything," Ethan said, his voice dry. "The sea doesn't." "Red forecasts," Kana replied. "It has its own moods, and today its mood is foul. We disturbed something." She said it matter-of-factly, as if commenting on the tide. But Ethan knew she meant their dive. For the first time, he didn't feel like arguing. He just watched the waves begin to rise, the sea shedding its calm for a menacing grey. The storm hit faster than he expected. The Kaiomaru pitched violently. Sky and sea merged into a turbid grey. The wind howled in gusts and massive waves slammed the hull, producing deep, resonant roars. They retreated to the galley, the cramped space suddenly feeling like a cage. Leo had lost his usual cheer. He paced, his face etched with agitation. "Lost all signal," he muttered, after failing to connect via satellite phone. "I promised Akari I'd call her every night." He glanced out the window at nature's fury. "I hate storms, feels like being trapped, completely powerless." Ethan felt powerless too, but not because of the storm. He sat in a corner, his gi, laptop open before him. The screen displayed his father's cryptic notes alongside Leo's sonar charts. They were like two languages describing the same monster. He tried to conjure a scientific explanation, a theory about anomalous magnetic fields or an unknown geological structure, but it all felt hollow. He was trying to bail out the ocean with a spoon. Kana was the only one unruffled. She brewed ginger tea, its aroma a faint warmth amid the chaos. She handed each of them a cup. "My brother was a man of science too," she said suddenly, staring into her tea. "A marine biologist. He didn't believe the elders' stories, said they were just superstition." She paused, taking a breath. "There's an underwater cave south of the island. They say it's a haven for lost spirits." He laughed, said it was just a unique ecosystem to study. On a clear day like today, he dove in alone, never came back. Leo and Ethan listened in. Silence. "They only found his oxygen tank at the cave's mouth," Kana continued, her voice steady but heavy with a pain as deep as the sea. "Crushed, like something with unimaginable strength had squeezed it." The official report said sudden pressure change, But the old fisherman knew better. My grandmother said when the sea slumber festival is forgotten, the watcher awakens. When it wakes, it hungers, and it always seeks those with the loudest hearts, those carrying too much pride, too much anger, too much regret. As she spoke those final words, her eyes flicked to Ethan. He felt she was seeing through him his shame about his father, his anger at himself, his regret for a relationship that could never be mended. That night the storm raged on. Exhausted, Ethan drifted off on the narrow cabin bunk. Sleep brought no peace. It dragged him to a place far worse. He was back in the university lecture hall, but now the auditorium was empty, steeped in darkness. His father stood at the podium, his back to him. "Dad," Ethan called. Alistair turned. His face was blurred, but Ethan could feel an infinite sadness radiating from him. "Do you see, Ethan?" he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "It's not just stone." He pointed to the projection screen. The Yonaguni image began to move. The massive stone steps morphed into grinding stone teeth. The central platform became a vast, unfeeling eye staring directly at him. The projector's light vanished, replaced by a viscous black ooze seeping across the floor, creeping toward his feet. "It's hungry," his father's voice whispered from everywhere. "It's always hungry." Ethan jolted awake, his heart pounding as if it would burst, his shirt soaked with cold sweat. The storm's roar persisted, but beneath it, he heard something else. Thump, thump, thump. A low, steady sound, like the pulse of a colossal heart. It seemed to rise from the ocean floor, vibrating through the ship's hull. He held his breath, listening. Was it just the engine? Debris from the storm striking the hull, or something else? Something down there in the dark, announcing its presence. Dawn arrived, gray and weary. The storm had passed, but the sea remained. Angry, white-capped waves slapping the hull with listless resentment. Ethan couldn't sleep again. His scientific skepticism had died last night, drowned in the nightmare and the ghostly pulse from the abyss. All that remained was a stark truth and a primal fear, and beneath that fear a cold resolve he had to know. He couldn't live in this doubt any longer. He stepped onto the sodden deck. Kana was already there, gazing at the sun struggling through the clouds. She didn't seem surprised to see him. Ethan approached, standing beside her. For the first time, he looked at her, not as a scientist regarding a local, but as a lost man, seeking a guide. "When?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Can we dive again?" Kana's gaze on Ethan held no judgment, only a deep sadness. She had seen this look before in her brother, the look of someone the abyss had called by name, with no strength left to resist. "The sea isn't calm yet," she said, her voice rough from sleeplessness. "What are you chasing down there so urgently, Doctor? Some answers are better left unfound." "I have to know," Ethan replied, and in a moment of raw honesty he didn't try to hide. "I can't leave with a question mark this big. My father, he gave his life to it. I can't live the rest of mine not knowing if he was a genius or a madman." Leo emerged from the engine room, his face haggard. He'd overheard Ethan. He glanced from Ethan to Kana, then out at the still grumbling sea. "I don't like this one bit," he said, his voice weary. "My equipment's picking up things that shouldn't exist. But we've got a job to do. If you say we dive, Ethan, we dive. Just for God's sake, be careful." The agreement was sealed, not with words but with a heavy silence. Kana nodded slowly. "Fine," she said. "But this time, we do it my way. I give a command, you follow it, no questions. Or I cut the anchor and leave you to your sea master." Her warning was cold as steel. Ethan nodded in acceptance. The air during preparations for the second dive was entirely different. No more of Leo's jokes or technical debates, only focused silence. The click of safety harnesses, the hiss of tank valves, the heavy tread of boots on the deck, all rang out unnaturally in the stillness. Each of them was an island of private fear. As they sank into the water, Ethan felt a shift. The water seemed colder, darker. The sunlight from above was absorbed by something unseen, unable to penetrate deeper. He no longer cared about the surrounding rock formations. Every sense was fixed on one direction, the crevice, the place of answers. He was a moth, blindly drawn to a flame he knew would consume him. They reached the crevice. It loomed, dark and menacing, like a scar on the Earth's face. "Kana and I will go in," Kana said over the comms, her voice steady with professional calm. "Leo, stay outside, keep the line open. If you lose our signal for more than 30 seconds, surface immediately and call for rescue." "Got it," Leo replied, his voice slightly shaky. Kana led the way. She swam into the narrow crevice with fluid caution, no movement wasted. Ethan followed close behind, trying to steady his increasingly rapid breathing. The sensation of being pressed by massive stone walls on all sides was suffocating. The water here was strangely still, as if imprisoned for millennia. Then they emerged. The cavern opened before Ethan, far vaster and more overwhelming than any camera could capture. Their flashlights swept across it, revealing a space like a forgotten cathedral. Limestone columns hung like the petrified fingers of a god, and at the center, on a flat stone platform, was the altar. It was made of a stone blacker than darkness, seeming to drink the light from their flashlights. Its surface was etched with carvings, Qaeda script twisting into complex, unsettling patterns. They seemed to quiver faintly in the current, an optical illusion, or was it? Ethan was utterly captivated. He forgot Kana, forgot Leo, forgot the world above. He swam closer. The whisper from his dream echoed, a wordless song of knowledge and emptiness. He needed proof, something tangible to bring back to the world of logic, something to prove he wasn't going mad. He drew his geological hammer from his belt. "No!" Kana's voice screamed through his headset, shrill and desperate. "Ethan, don't!" But it was too late. Obsession had taken hold. He swung the hammer. The clank of metal on stone rang out, blasphemous in the ancient silence of the cavern. A small, sharp fragment of stone broke free, floating in the water. Ethan lunged to grab it. As his gloved fingers closed around the fragment, another sharp edge of the altar sliced deep into his palm. A stab of pain shot through him, but his mind was fixed on the sample. He had it. He had proof, and then he saw it. His blood crimson seeped from the cut, but it didn't diffuse into the blue water. It behaved unnaturally. The droplets stretched, forming vivid red threads, and they were drawn back toward the altar. The stone was drinking his blood. In that moment, something horrific happened. Every carving on the altar flared to life with a sickly green glow, bathing the cavern in an otherworldly light. The water around them vibrated violently, and then a screech. a piercing psychic scream that stabbed into their minds. It wasn't sound, it was pure agony. Ethan, Leo, and Kana clutched their heads, their bodies crumpling in unbearable pain. "Fall back!" Kana roared through the torment. Panic. It was the only word for what followed. They turned, frantically swimming for the crevice, heedless of direction or technique. Ethan, in his daze, instinctively stuffed the stone fragment into his sample pouch. He glanced at his hand. The cut had stopped bleeding. The skin was knitting itself shut at an impossible speed, and beneath it, a faint green line pulsed. They burst from the crevice like prey fleeing an unseen predator, leaving the quaking, glowing cavern behind. They broke the surface, shattering the morning silence. Leo tore off his mask and vomited over the dive platform's edge. Kana clung to the ladder, trembling, muttering Japanese prayers Ethan couldn't understand. Ethan gasped, struggling to draw air into his aching chest. He slowly opened his injured hand. The pain was gone. The cut was gone. But in its place, a complex symbol identical to one in his father's notebook was now etched into his flesh. It no longer glowed, appearing as a dark scar-like tattoo, as if it had always been there. He had the answer he'd sought, but it wasn't in the sample pouch. It was on his skin. He hadn't just observed the abyss, he had touched it. And the abyss had touched back, branding him with its claim. He had come as a scientist, now he was an experiment. The short journey from the dive site back to the small harbor of Yonaguni Island was the longest in Ethan's life. No one spoke a word. The engine of the Kaio Maru growled steadily, a mundane mechanical sound utterly out of place against the irrational horror they had just endured. Ethan huddled in a corner, his injured hand tucked deep in his jacket pocket, as if it were a venomous snake that might strike at any moment. He could feel it, a tingling, cold, alien sensation. It was no longer part of his body. It was something else. Leo sat across from him, but he seemed to be somewhere far away. He stared at the waves lapping against the boat's side, his eyes empty, his face pale as a sheet. Every now and then, he shuddered involuntarily, as if the chill from the abyss still clung to him. Kana stood at the helm, her back ramrod straight. She no longer looked at them. Her gaze was fixed on the island growing larger in the distance, her face a mask of cold resolve. Her silence was more terrifying than any accusation. It was the detachment of someone who had foreseen tragedy and now only accepted its consequences. When the boat docked, Kana was the first to act. She tossed the rope ashore and tied it with mechanical precision. Once everything was secure, she turned to face Ethan one last time. "My work here is done," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "The contract is broken. You didn't respect me, and more importantly, you didn't respect the sea. I won't dive with you again." She picked up her bag. Before leaving, she paused, her eyes locking onto the hand Ethan hid in his pocket. "That mark on your hand," she said, her voice lowering. "It's not a scar, it's a seed. You let the abyss plant its seed in you. Don't let it grow. My only advice to you now is this. Leave this island immediately before night falls." With that, she turned and walked away, her steps swift and decisive, never looking back. Her departure left a vast emptiness, severing their final link to safety and local knowledge. Now they were utterly alone. The small guest house they had rented suddenly felt suffocating, like a tomb. Ethan and Leo sat in silence, each lost in their own private hell. The quiet was broken only by the hum of electronic devices. Driven by an ingrained habit, the last remnant of the scientist within him, Ethan took the rock sample he had risked his life to retrieve. He placed it in a portable spectrometer and geochemical analyzer. He needed numbers. He needed data. He needed something tangible to cling to prove his mind hadn't completely shattered. The machine beeped steadily. Lines of data began to appear on the laptop screen. Compound analysis, basalt matrix, complex protein chains integrated, not found in Earth's biological database. Silicon-based structure, exhibiting characteristics of a dormant crystalline organism. Detection of rare elements, Y-La-C with anomalous concentrations. Ethan read the lines over and over. There it was. Undeniable proof. The greatest discovery of the century. Something that would rewrite every textbook on biology and geology. Something that would vindicate his father, transforming him from a madman into a prophet. But he felt nothing. No elation, no pride, only nausea and emptiness. He glanced at his hand, where the mark lay hidden beneath his skin. What was the real proof? The numbers on the screen, or the seed burrowing into his flesh? Science had become a mockery in the face of a reality too horrifying to comprehend. While Ethan was trapped by meaningless data, Leo began to speak. He wasn't talking to Ethan, but seemingly to himself. It's still in my head, Ethan, he whispered, clutching his head. That scream. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. It's like a shard of broken glass cutting into my brain. And I see her. I see Akari. Leo's voice broke. I see her on the swing. And that shadow, the shadow from the altar. It's reaching for her. It wants to hurt her, Ethan. It's just psychological trauma, Leo, Ethan tried to say, but his own words sounded feeble. We've been through a shock. No! Leo suddenly shouted, his eyes bloodshot, filled with a crazed intensity. He turned to Ethan, his gaze a mix of fear and horrific realization. You don't understand, it has power. We saw what it did to your hand. It can do impossible things. It can hurt. And if it can hurt, he swallowed hard, then maybe it can also protect. Ethan froze. He saw the twisted, insane logic born of love and abject fear in his friend's eyes. He saw a man standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap, if there was even the slimmest hope of saving the most precious thing in his life. That night, no one slept. Ethan lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. He felt a constant tingling from the marked hand. It didn't hurt, but it was always there, a persistent reminder, an alien presence coexisting within his body. Around midnight, he heard a sound, a whisper. It was coming from Leo's room. Ethan crept out of bed and pressed his ear to the thin wooden door. He heard Leo's voice, broken and sobbing. It wasn't a phone call. It was a prayer. A one-sided negotiation with the darkness. I know you're there. I felt you down there. Listen to me. My daughter, her name is Akari. She's everything to me. She's innocent. Please leave her alone. Spare her. I'll do anything you want. I'll give you what you need. A door. Is that what you need? A host? Take it. Take me. I'll open the door for you. Just promise me. Promise me you'll protect her. Let her be safe. Ethan stood frozen outside, his blood running cold. He was listening to his friend willingly offer his soul to an entity they didn't even understand. The seed in Ethan's hand was merely a physical mark, but the seed of madness, watered by love and fear, had just taken root in Leo's soul. The greatest threat was no longer at the bottom of the sea. It was in the room next door.
In the shadow of my archive, a new horror stirs. Date to listen.